Hello, my name is Doug Lazier. Thank you for joining me for this training video for the Sage Budgeting and Planning software. This is another in the Getting Started series. Today we're going to be looking at the resulting budget. Remember, there are some available resources to help you out. All of the other how-to documents and training videos that are part of this Getting Started series. Don't forget the Budgeting and Planning User Guide, which you will find in the installation CD that you downloaded in the PDF folder. And if you have any questions or problems, then you can reach out to the technical support team at Sage for assistance, and their contact information is shown on the screen. This video picks up right after you've installed the budgeting software, gone through the Quick Start Assistant to connect your general ledger data. You've used the basic budgets wizard to create a plan, and you've completed the budget cycle so that you have an approved budget. So we have an approved budget. Now what? Well, keep in mind that your general ledger has a place to hold budgets, and every reporting tool that works with your general ledger is designed to look in those budget tables when doing a budget versus actual report. So the goal of the budgeting and planning tool is not simply to create a budget, but the intent that you're going to put this resulting budget back into your general ledger for the sake of reporting. If you look at your plan tree, you should realize that the budget that you created, department by department, account by account, resides in many different plan sheets throughout the entire plan tree. So one of the first steps we want to do is to have the software go through every plan sheet and gather up this resulting budget. And the software calls that Update Balances. We're going to use a process to accomplish that. Click on the summary level location, the highest level sheet in our plan tree, and using the menu item Management, Update Balances. This will open up the screen, and we're going to select from the down arrow, the drop down here, one of our department sheets. Within the screen, we're going to tell the software that we are updating or gathering up budget amounts. So put a check mark here where it says Budget Balances. We're going to gather those budget amounts out of the budget group. And the next item is to select the appropriate budget code within the general ledger. The budgeting software calls that the key, the plan or the budget key. Now, just to keep in mind that in Sage 300, the normal codes that you would see here are 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5. In Sage 100, the default codes are original and revised. Other general ledgers might have other codes or allow you to create your own budget codes. The ellipse or the three dots here would do a lookup and allow you to choose your appropriate budget code if it's not already selected. And since we're going to be using the standard demonstration data, we will leave the budget key as the word plan. Click OK. And it asks if we want to update the information. We'll say yes. And we're back to this screen. At this point, we want to select the plan sheets to gather up. Rather than select them one at a time, I'm going to suggest you just click the Select All button. And now we're ready to run this process and gather up the budget amounts. We'll give it a moment to process. And now it has completed the update balance process. Did not take very long. We'll just go ahead and close this little screen. Now, when it gathers up the budget amounts, it puts it over here in the resulting balances. And if we select that, we'll see that our budget that we gathered is shown here. If you've used this to gather up other budgets, perhaps from prior years, you'll see all of those different budgets listed here. If you double click on the budget, it will actually display the details of that budget data. So account number by account number, period by period, and the the amounts are shown here. Now, honestly, this is not a very efficient way to review the budgeting data. So let me show you a better way. If you stop and think about it, you should realize that Sage 100, Sage 300, and just about every other general ledger package out there has a feature to import budgets, and they prefer to do that from an Excel file. And if you think about it further, you realize that finance people really know how to use Excel and like that as a tool. So we're going to use a technique in Excel to get these resulting budget dollars and pull it into Excel and allow you to do your analysis there. And in the process, we're going to go ahead and format the data so that it matches the requirements of your general ledger. So let's take a look at that. All right, I'm going to suggest that you download a copy of the Excel file for your particular general ledger. I'm going to go ahead and open up the copy that I've downloaded already. When you do, you may get a security warning. So if you get that, go ahead and click on the word Options and enable this content. Now, if you've already set up your security within Excel so that this Excel file sits in a trusted area, then you would not get this message. All right, now we need to make some one-time adjustments to the Excel file that you downloaded. So let's go ahead and go through that process. We're going to start by going to the Data ribbon and then to the Connections. And we're going to choose the Resulting Balances connection and look at the properties of that. And this is where we will be making our adjustments. Now there's two tabs here, Usage and Definition. Honestly, I've rarely ever needed to make any changes to the Usage tab, so we're going to focus on the Definition. Two places we need to change. The first is what they call the connection string. And it's a little hard to see here, so what I've done is I've copied the information out of there and put it in Word, just so it's a whole lot easier for you and I to see it and review this. So this is the entire provider string, the connection string, but there's only a couple of things we really need to modify here. The first is what it calls the initial catalog. What this really means is the database on your SQL Server that contains the budgeting data. So if you're using the standard demonstration data and you named it according to my how-to documents and training video, then this would be SBP_demo_comp. So I will be making that change to the connection string. The other part of it is what it calls the data source. And this is the name of your SQL Server. So go ahead and enter whatever you need there for your SQL Server name. Okay, so jump back to your Excel and make those changes in the connection string. And then the next part we're going to go to then is the command text. And again, I've taken that data and copied it into Word just so we can review this. This one's a little bit more geeky. Sorry about that, but it's not too bad. Let's just take a quick look at it. Down towards the bottom part, we have what the software calls the where clause. And this is where we need to make a couple small changes. The first part is host company. And this is the company code that you set up in the budgeting and planning tool when you installed it. Again, if you're using the standard demonstration data, then that's going to be the word demo. Remember to put single quotes around it because it is text. The next thing will be the budget code that we're updating in our general ledger. So if you're using the standard demo data, then it would be the word plan. If you're using Sage 300, all right, then this would be 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5. And if you're using Sage 100, it would be the word original. Again, I'm using the standard demo data, so we'll leave it at the budget code of plan. And then the other thing would be the fiscal year. One more part, and this is where it gets just a little bit tricky, is the account number. So the budgeting and planning software, like many general ledgers, stores the account number without the segment separators. And so we want to put them back in while as part of formatting the data correctly for our general ledger. So we're going to use the substring command. Don't be too concerned about this. The substring is just very similar to the mid command in Excel, which you're probably familiar with. So here we're going to take, beginning at the first character, we're going to grab 4 characters from the account string, and then we're going to put a dash in between as an account or a segment separator. And in a similar way, we're going to pick up 3 characters beginning at the 5th character in our account number, 3 characters beginning at the 8th character, and then finally the last 2 characters, all separated with a dash, because that's what the demonstration data uses for its chart of accounts structure. Just as an example, to make sure you're familiar with this, what if your particular account had 3 segments to it, 5, 2, and then 3, and it uses dots for the separator? What would the substring command look like for you? Well, it would be this: substring, beginning at the first character, pick up 5 characters from the account number, separate it with a dot, and then go to the 6th character and pick up 2 more characters, separate it with a dot, and then finally pick up the last 3 characters. So this would be your substring command if you had a 5, 2, 3 account structure separated by dots. So it's pretty simple and straightforward. Okay, so jump back to the connection properties and adjust your command text. Click the OK button and click the Close button, and it will actually update the data as it's closing this screen. If you receive some kind of a connection open error at this point, it probably means that you do not have permission to access your budget data on the SQL Server. So just simply talk to your SQL or your IT person and ask them to give you read-only access to all of your budgeting and planning databases. And then you will save your Excel file. And now you can review in a tool that you're very familiar with, your budget. And whenever you're happy with it, it's already formatted according to the requirements of your general ledger, and you're ready to import it into your general ledger. In the future, you will be making additional budgets for future fiscal years. I would suggest you always start with this Excel file as your starting point, because this is where you've made those one-time changes. So in the future, when you want to pull the budget data from the budgeting tool into Excel, use the same Excel file as your starting point. All right, at this point, you would open up your general ledger software. In Sage 100 and 300, this tool is named GL Exchange. Other general ledgers would have a similar tool, but perhaps call it something different. Sage has created a how-to document and training videos on using this tool to import your budgets, so I would recommend that you review these for your particular general ledger. Hey, what if I needed to make some changes to my budget? I've approved it, I've reviewed it, I've moved it into the general ledger, but I find that I need to go back and make changes. So I went to all of my department managers, we sat down and we went through another budget cycle and made modifications. If you've gone through the entire budget cycle, which includes running the update balances, then the new budget amounts are in the resulting balances in the budgeting planning tool. So we just simply come back to this Excel file, open it up, again go to the Data ribbon, and in this time all we need to do is refresh the data. So click the Refresh All button, and just that fast it reads a new copy of all of this budget data. And now we're ready to save it. Go to our general ledger and point the budget import tool to this Excel file. All right, those are the things I wanted to cover in this training video. Thank you.